Thank you for watching this video. Inside this video is my live reaction to the best novel being announced, and also just kind of an analysis on the Hugo Awards, going over the controversy from last year. I guess an asterisk on that. I did do research to talk about it thoroughly, but I may have missed something, or it's even possible I got something wrong. So if I did, please let me know. And basically, I voted in 5 categories. I'll tell you about them. I'm going to talk about. I decided to live stream this with my chat. They had a lot of fun with it as well. So it's a little chaotic at times, but it's not too bad. Enjoy me give my dissertation on what I think should win Best Hugo Award, and also my reaction to what won the Best Novel category. I only recorded Best Novel because I was not I didn't want to actually like stream the Hugo Awards on my channel, so it was just like I provided a link to the chat, and it was like no audio, no video, just me reacting to it. So it's not like you're not gonna see the award winner win the award on my end, but you'll see my reaction to it. But you can. I'll provide a link in the description box where you can actually like see watch the awards again if you would like to. Enjoy the video. Thank you. I made a PowerPoint. Let's go to the PowerPoint. Woo! Look at my lovely PowerPoint. I'm like a little too big, but that's okay. So the Hugo Awards 2024. I made a I think people in the business industry call it a deck. I hate calling it that. It's a PowerPoint presentation about the Hugo Awards because, you know, I have things to say. The first thing that I need to talk about, obviously, is what are the Hugos? For those that don't know, the Hugo Awards is it's like a ceremony. It's kind of like it seems like it's the Oscars for sci-fi fantasy, everything sci-fi fantasy, but it's kind of its own thing. Anyone that's part of Worldcon, which is a sci-fi fantasy convention that happens every year somewhere around the world, anyone who buys attendance to the convention can vote in the Hugo Awards. So really, it's just a panel of super nerds voting for what they thought was the best books, the best movies, the best video game. Well, there's lots of categories to vote in for the year, and this has been going on since 1955, I think, and was held in like an official ceremony like the very next year or the year after that. And they also held like retro Hugos for a little while to be like, well, there were like sci-fi books coming out in like, you know, before that. So they have a bunch of like retro Hugo Awards that you can look at as well to see like the Sword in the Stone one, like in 19 whatever it came out. And yeah, it's a pretty old award ceremony. It's considered the Oscars, but really the Hugo Awards is voted on by sci-fi fantasy fans. So you'll see things on this list that wouldn't be in, like there's the Locus Awards, which are it's the same type of like award, like it's about novels and other media being sci-fi fantasy media being created for the year that like of the nomination, but it's only the only votes are people within like the publishing industry. So you'll see very different things, and I'll go over that when we get to the category. And yeah, it's old. So I actually can't really talk. Actually, we'll get into 2024 in a minute, but I do need to discuss the 2023 Hugo controversy. I think that it would be, I don't know, remiss of me not to do so, because I almost gave up on the Hugo Awards. I almost decided I wasn't going to cover Hugo Awards anything anymore, and I was going to move on to something else. So the controversy last year, it was honestly a lot. There were a variety of issues last year during the 2023 nomination validation process. During the time of like the nominations coming out, I was thinking, dear God, it's taking such a long time for them to come out with nominations. Usually it comes out in like May or even March. I can't even remember. But this one, it came out in August. So I only had like a month to read the book, or 2 months to read the books or something like that. I don't remember. It was not very much time, and I was in a time crunch, and I did it, but it was difficult. So, but anyway, it turns out that this lengthy period of time, like way longer than normal, is because Worldcon was held in China, and the administration team that validates the nominations decided to add like compliance with Chinese political and social agenda as like a criteria for being accepted as a nomination. emails were leaked, and so then it was like clear evidence that like people were debating whether some authors should be allowed to be nominated or not. And the most controversial books were R.F. Kuang's Babel was not officially nominated, even though it was literally the book last year, like the sci-fi fantasy book last year. Like everyone was reading it, or from like 2022 or whatever, because that's like the nominate, like the 2023 awards are things published in 2022. The 2024 awards are for things published in 2023. It's always like a year behind. So, and then I was so convinced it was going to be on the ballot, that Babel by R.F. Kuang was going to be there, that I read it, but then it wasn't on the nomination list. And it happens to be because the main character of Babel is a Chinese man raised in England, and at one point he visits China during the First Opium War, and it was deemed potentially offensive rather than just historically accurate. So, yeah. And there were other such examples, such as an author not being nominated because the administration team outright thought that this guy, he visited Tibet when he actually visited Nepal. And also, a very popular outspoken author, Ziran Zhejiao, her young adult novel, Zachary Ying and the Dragon Emperor, was not nominated for the Lodestar Award for young adult fiction, largely because she is quite outspoken about civil rights on all fronts, but also because the main character of that book is Muslim, is Chinese Muslim, and that's like not. They're like, oh no, people will be offended. So it didn't go out that way. But more than any of that, it kind of felt like it was spoken mirrors because the administration was actually trying to get more Chinese-made science fiction fantasy on the ballot, despite not having any nominations because it's not published outside of China, so people haven't read it. Like, people worldwide have not read it. I mean, I'm sure if it was published, people would read it, because that's what people do at Worldcon. They love reading, like, sci-fi fantasy from all around the world, but since it wasn't translated, people didn't read it. It just turned out to be a huge shit show, a very dishonest showing for an award show where the nominees are supposed to be submitted by Worldcon attendees and voted on by Worldcon attendees, but that didn't happen. But the Hugo Award team had many people leave. Like, the administration team is like not an entirely different set of people, but it's pretty different people this year. Everything this year has been completely transparent. Like, the entire communication, they've been very honest and like telling us every reason why they've done things the way they have this year for the Hugo Award process. There was immediate communication why some nominations were not accepted for certain reasons, or because the person that was nominated, they decided to decline the nomination. Like, they didn't want to be nominated. Like, one of those examples is, if anyone remembers, Bigelows Dickolas on Twitter promoting How to Lose the Time War, that novella, that got time travel novella that got really, really popular. That was nominated as like best fan thing. And Bigelows declined the nomination, which I understand why. Because like, they didn't have anything to do with writing the book or promoting the book. They were just like, hey, read it. That's it. So I kind of get not wanting to get an award for that. And there was also recent reporting of several votes being thrown out because it was easily found out that they were like, it was made like a bunch of sock puppet accounts were all voting for like one thing, so they were all like, those aren't real. So you can read about that on the Hugo Award website if you'd like. I just wanted to like cover that information. So yeah. Chuck did not get nominated this year. He has been nominated in the past. Because he came out with, was it Camp Damascus last year? I can't remember. Yeah. Have you ever heard Camp Damascus? I've heard is really good. I just am hesitant to read it because it's horror. And it's all about like growing up, going to like Jesus camp, being forced to go to Jesus camp and being like gay, I think is what it's about. There's also a new book coming out this year called Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle. I kind of want to, I don't know. The cover is so cool for that book. I really want to read it just based on that alone. But yeah. Imagine getting scared by a book called Just Close Your Eyes. Shh! Shut up, Bass. Hello, Bass. So I knew I had to talk about that. But the good thing is, though, I just saw this morning that George R.R. Martin decided to make, like, it's kind of a fake award, kind of, but he wanted to make an award for the main two people who were completely disqualified, R.F. Kuang and Ziran Zhejiao. And he made them, like, a little award, like, you get the award for being disqualified the most, or something. Or just an award for, like, you were disqualified and you should have won, basically, for these two authors. And I was like, that's very kind of you, George R.R. Martin. So, yay, they got awards. So, what did I vote for this year? I'm gonna have to move myself at certain points. So there are 20 categories that you can vote in, and I voted in 5 of them because it's what I felt like I actually knew what was being talked about in them. Because there's like certain categories like best fanzine, best like related podcast, best things that I just don't know about, I don't listen to, so I don't vote in them. But these are all the categories I felt comfortable voting in. So we have best novel, best novella, best dramatic presentation long form, so movies, best game or interactive work, so video games, and the Lodestar Award for best young adult book, which is not considered a Hugo, but it's a Hugo and it's presented at the same time. I don't know why it's not considered a Hugo. I'd have to look into that, but they always want you to know that it's not a Hugo, but it basically is. So I'm going to go from the bottom to the top. I'm going to start with the Lodestar Award. So I voted for To Shape a Dragon's Breath by Moniquill Blackgoose. This book is awesome. There were a lot of pretty good authors on the list, but unfortunately I just felt like even if I read all these other books, I know To Shape a Dragon's Breath is such a standout title that I'm just going to vote for it anyway. I usually like to watch everything, but if I just know that I'm going to like this is the one that I'm going to vote for regardless, I'm just going to do it. So To Shape a Dragon's Breath is about it's written by an indigenous person. It's like basically dragons plus colonialism plus like from an actual indigenous perspective. So Anakus gets a dragon egg. She starts raising her dragon egg, but because basically white people are colonizing these indigenous people's lands, dragons, which are also, well, they're not only from the area that they are in, but they've made all these laws on how to handle dragons. She has to go to dragon rearing school, and she's like one of the only people of color even at the school. And honestly, that's all I'm going to say. It's just really good. It's a really nice story. I will die on this hill that it's the best one there. Even not having read all of them. It's just great. So I wanted to do that. It's also contentious. Like I'm weird about stats in books, apparently. I mean, I knew this about myself, but in case you didn't know, you probably already knew. To Shape a Dragon's Breath, people don't know whether it's a young adult book or a adult book. It's a young adult book for sure, but it's getting nominated in adult categories in some awards, some book awards. So I don't know, but it's definitely young adult. It's appropriate to be here. I wish that it was on the best novel list, but it shouldn't be because this is where its home is. So for best, this is the one that you could probably help with. You probably have opinions on, is best game or interactive work. So we had Baldur's Gate, Dredge, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Chants of Sennaar, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and Alan Wake 2. I'm not surprised to see any of these on here. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is like not going to be nominated anywhere else but here because it's the Worldcon Awards. This is where super nerds nominate their favorite games. How the hell is Zelda interactive? It's a game. Best game. It's true. I'm not familiar with Chants of Sennaar. I have seen the game. It looks pretty cool. I don't know if it's telling a very like extensive narrative or anything. I honestly based my vote on what I thought had the most interactive narrative or most deep narrative, and I was like torn between Alan Wake 2 and Baldur's Gate 3. Even though I haven't played Alan Wake 2. But ultimately I was like, okay, I'm going to vote for Baldur's Gate 3. I feel like Baldur's Gate 3 is going to win anyway. So I voted for it. Yeah, I was surprised to see Zelda, but when I think about super nerds, there's probably just like enough people attending Worldcon to think that to submit Zelda, honestly. It's really funny they say interactive work or best game, and these are all part of the game category. It's true. Alan Wake 2. Yeah, I think it would be great to see Alan Wake 2 win, because it seems like it's a really great, deep narrative, but, you know, I just feel like it's going to be Baldur's Gate 3 with the hype and popularity. And then the next one, I think I have to move my model for this one, though. Hold on, let me... There, you can see it, kind of. Whatever, you can see it. It's Dungeons & Dragons that I'm hiding. Whatever. So yeah, best dramatic presentation long form. I've actually seen most of these movies. We have Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves, Wandering Earth 2, which is a Chinese film that is the only one I haven't seen, Poor Things, Barbie, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and Nimona, which is an animated movie on Netflix, and it was originally a graphic novel. Right. I was like okay with all of these. I'm kind of surprised Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves was here because I thought it was a fun movie, not a very like thought-provoking movie, but pretty good. Honestly, I voted for Spider-Man Across the Universe because Spider-Verse because I just thought it was a great movie, and they took their time animating it. It looks so great. The story is good. I just really liked it. I don't know. I have no idea what will win this category. I have no idea. I feel very confident in saying Baldur's Gate 3 will win the video game one, but as far as the best movie, I have no idea. I didn't do best dramatic presentation in short form, which was like episodic things, because it was all episodes of the latest Doctor Who and Star Trek, and I haven't seen any of that, so I just did not vote. But I did vote in best novella. So for best novella, I voted Rose House by Arkady Martine. I talked about this is like one of my favorite books of the year last year that I read. It is a smart house meets haunted fiction, which I mean, Smart House might be haunted fiction if you've ever seen that movie. It's kind of a retelling. It is a retelling of a classic horror book and also movie. I think it's also been made into like a Netflix movie, and I just really liked it. There were other books nominated that I had actually read, like The Mimicking of Known Successes and the Niveau series, Mammoth at the Gates, but I didn't like those, so I felt confident in voting for Rose House. and Arkady Martine. I kind of hope that she gets it. I kind of am wondering if she did. We already kind of know she won because she announced on the first day of Worldcon that this book was originally published by Subterranean Press, which is a small publisher, so very, very limited. There's only like 200 copies of the physical print book made, but it's going to be now published by Tor, a major publisher, republished by Tor, a major publisher, so everyone will have access to it going forward. So that makes me kind of think maybe it won. But we'll see. They're seeing the popularity of it. So here's the big one. The big one, oh, I'm in the middle. Best novel. I read all of these, kind of. We'll get into the details in a minute. I've talked about most of these. Yeah, I read all of these mostly. We'll get to the one I didn't talk about, or I didn't read all of first. I had to allow myself to not talk about, or to not read one of them if I just couldn't stand one of them, because I didn't do that last year and I really needed to, because it kind of like, it just puts you in like a bad mind space when you're forcing yourself to do something that you don't want for so many hours, you know? I'm going to talk about these in the orders that I ranked them in. Basically, you can award them points. If you award them the number one slot, they get like the number one slot set of points. If you rank them in number 6, then they get like the number 6 ranking of points. It's a little different than what I'm describing, but that's an easy way to understand it. So in 6th place, I put The Witch King, or just Witch King by Martha Wells. So this is in last place. I did not read all this book, so I'm just going to give you the description that comes from the inner cover of the book. So, after being murdered, his consciousness dormant and unaware of the passing of time while confined in an elaborate water trap, Kai wakes to find a lesser mage attempting to harness Kai's magic to his own advantage. That was never going to go well, but why was Kai imprisoned in the first place? What has changed in the world since his assassination? And why does the Rising World Coalition appear to be growing in influence? Kai will need to pull his allies close and draw on all his pain magic if he is to answer even the least of these questions. He is not going to like the answers. Wrath of the Witch King. People don't appreciate definite articles enough. You're right. So yeah, I gave myself some leeway. I allowed myself to DNF or did not finish a book if I needed to. I made it really far into this book, though, like 60%, but ultimately I knew I needed to stop. I was so bored. I was actually very worried about being bored with this book when I saw the nomination in the first place, because I read the first book in the Murderbot series that Martha Wells has written, and I was really bored. I read the entirety of that novella, of the first book of the Murderbot series, but I was boring. It was just really boring to me. I was really hopeful, because this was fantasy, not sci-fi, that maybe it will be different. No, it wasn't. The magical concepts regarding consciousness was really interesting, but the payoff was just not there. The book is told in a way that goes back and forth on timelines a lot, and it's just oddly difficult to follow, like, what is going on and what you're doing sometimes. And, like, I was paying attention. I don't know. I just got more and more confused. I have to go back and listen to passages again, because I was like, wait, who's talking? Where are we? Is this person alive still? I don't know. I just really couldn't get into the alternating timelines. I didn't care what Pointswell was making either with like consciousness and bodily autonomy and stuff. So ultimately, I just decided to move on to the next book rather than try to push forward with a book I really did not care about or for. Also, the audiobook narrator, I like switched over to the audiobook because I was like, maybe it'll be more interesting that way. Maybe the audiobook narrator will be really good at telling the story and I'll like it. No, the audiobook narrator sounded really bored as well, which is a shame. Oh well. I read all the other books that I'm about to talk about, but like I just could not with this one. Oh, it's unfortunate because Martha Wells is a really beloved author. I wish that I could also love Martha Wells. I just don't think she's for me, sadly. In 5th place, I put Some Desperate Glory by Emily Tesh. Yeah. Can y'all have me read fun books? That was the hope. This book is about Kier. She is living on the station in space as one of the last remaining humans training to avenge the murder of planet Earth. She's the top of her class. She's good at all things combat-y. She's ready to go to be a soldier for her station. And then her and her brother get like their work assignments, like their children training up to like be soldiers for or something, to workers for the station, and then they get like assignments when they come of age or whatever. So once they get those, things start to go awry as her brother is sent off to certain death, and Kier is also sentenced to an early death because she's being put in the baby-making ward instead of in any combat position like she had dreamed of. Obviously, Kier is upset about this, and so she starts to plan her escape from the station to go save her brother with the help of her brother's friend and a captive alien. And then the story expands from there. So, this book is better than the one I put in 6th place. I think, honestly, the audiobook was amazing. The audiobook narrator is Senna Breyer. I thought that she did a really, really good job. She had really good direction with how the characters act and how the characters should sound, and I think it made it really interesting to, like, even when I was so, like, I'm not gonna lie, I got really, really mad at the main character at times. I still wanted to listen. I kind of wanted to throw the book across the room, but I still wanted to listen, or my phone, I guess, because I was listening to the audiobook. I still wanted to listen because, she was very engaging. She's a very engaging audiobook author, or narrator. The book, however, is kind of tough to talk about because on one hand, I have to applaud this author for she was trying to write something that's rather nuanced and complex, and the story kind of achieves it. Like, she, halfway achieves it. But the other half, I have to, not give her any applause at all because I think she took on a little too much and needed to stick to one or two ideas. The book at its core is very Huckleberry Finn. The MC has a very set perception of the world that is very prejudiced, and she is very sheltered. But she is also a huge bully. She's kind of insufferable. One of the first scenes of the book is her, being mean and, making a girl lick the floor. How am I supposed to, root for this bully? She's, genuinely mean to everyone she talks to. She dabbles in homophobia and racism at the beginning as well. She needed a really big arc showing her reconciliation with herself as her world is blown wide open and she learns a lot, but she doesn't really get to have that arc because the playing field of the story changes so often and so quickly in the second half. And I could tell that this book was trying to make a statement oh, you grow as you see more of the world, but we just don't get enough of it. We just don't. Unfortunately. So, yeah, a lot of the action was quite interesting, but ultimately in the end, I felt like the characters needed more on-page growth rather than split decisions to do the right thing. Not a terrible book, not the best book. This was this author's, debut official, full novel release, so, applaud to her for that. But, yeah, no one truly wants to root for a bully. Yeah, she's just too much of a bully. But I would read the next publication from Emily Tesh because I think that she can grow. Her writing is not bad. It's just that some of the ideas did not pan out very well. In 4th place? Yeah. 4th place, I have Starter Villain by John Scalzi. Yeah, so this story is about Charlie. He is living in his late father's home with two cats named Hera and Persephone. He's working as a substitute teacher in his hometown because he got divorced and lost his journalism job recently because of the panini. He really would like to go open up a pub in his hometown, but it's not like he has any money to do so. And things aren't looking great for him. But then, Charlie's long lost uncle passes away and leaves his entire business to Charlie. His business is complicated to describe, but basically it's being a supervillain. Charlie's just a normal dude who suddenly has to deal with talking cats, talking dolphins, and his uncle's enemies trying to kill him. But at least he has a lot of money, right? Uh, that's this book. This book is really short. It's a fun Scalzi popcorn read. Last year I read Kaiju Preservation Society by John Scalzi and found it very similar, but stronger. This book overall is a fun, fresh fish out of water, lighthearted tale. Even though there's like a lot of like evil people being evil, it's still overall not. It's not going to make you like feel too bad. And the cats are great. Hera and Persephone are really great. I didn't expect a light discussion on the treatment of workers in our modern world to really come up, but I guess because Charlie's just a normal guy and he's dealing with all these multi-millionaires and their complete lack of care for the general population, I guess it's only natural. Yeah, I think this book is fine. I liked this book. I could really relate to Charlie, weirdly enough, because the situation is not the same as mine, but like the suddenly getting things you didn't expect thing, that is more similar to me, I guess. But yeah, if you want a sci-fi popcorn novel about talking cats and modern day villainy, this is the book for you. Talking cats is too strong a word. They don't actually talk, but if you read the book, you'll find out what they do. They do talk, but they don't talk. In third place, I have The Saint of Bright Doors by Vajra Chandrasekera. This is an interesting book because as soon as I was done reading it, I was like, wait, what is this book about? It's about Fetter, ultimately. He is a dude living in a city after leaving a pretty traumatic childhood behind. You see, Fetter, he has been tasked by his mother with a heavy quest to murder his father. But his father isn't just like a deadbeat guy that left or whatever. He's like a sainted guy. Like everyone knows who he is. He's like the saint of like, he's a very popular guy to support. And he has like actual magical powers that makes it harder to kill him through simple methods. Understandably, Fetter doesn't actually want to kill anyone, and he has joined a group therapy to talk about this. Yeah. But it actually turns out that the group therapy is just a front for therapists. The main therapist, the revolutionary group. Also, there are doors that seem to be portals, but no one can access them, not really anyway. I think that's about all I can say before I get into spoiler territory. This book is really well written. It's a very interesting story. The storytelling and the prose style is very interesting, but doesn't always work for me. Didn't always work for me the entire time I read it. There were times I was really intrigued in the plot, where the plot was going, but then all of a sudden the plot would change because Fetter kind of doesn't care. Fetter doesn't like because everything's told from Fetter's perspective. He just doesn't tell you like things that he did in certain chunks of time. So you're like, why are you here? How did this happen to you? And you don't know, and Fetter doesn't tell you. It's really like cut off and confusing at times. But overall, I did enjoy the book. Fetter's just coasting, and it was frustrating. But I kind of get it. Like, you have a lot of trauma. You don't want to kill your dad. But things are progressing in this world, and it's kind of getting harder to ignore your mother's desires or whatever. I don't know. This is honestly like a great book because as being like the first novel published by Chandrasekera. Great book. I would love to see what they can write next because it just was really weird and cut off at times. And the language was kind of strange to me at times, but it still was pretty good. I don't have any major complaints about it, but I wouldn't wholeheartedly recommend it to everyone. In second place, I have Translation State by Leckie. So, this is like a weirder one that I read. So this is actually like within a huge, what's the word? literary universe, I guess. Yeah, it's part of the sprawling world that already has like a huge trilogy and like 2 other books written in it called the Imperial Erotic series, but I haven't read any of the other books. I started here, and I went to see if it was okay if I started here, if I needed to like check out the other books before I read this one. But no, it's its own story. It's set in the same world, but it's not like you can read it. It's fine. So I read it. I know that was a long way to say that. Yes, you can read this too. But yeah. So the story is, the book flips between 3 point of views for the entire book. There's N.A., someone who has recently become a diplomat and is trying to find a fugitive who has been missing for 200 years. There's Reet, an adopted mechanic who has never really felt like he fits in anywhere he goes in life. And then there's Kven, this person thing that was created to be a translator. Yeah. It is a book that feels firmly in the space mystery, while also it's about finding where you belong in the world and also what it means to be human. This would be hard to recommend to everyone, but I found myself really liking it. It's kind of like, this is a very odd like way to relate it, but it's kind of like 12 Angry Men mixed with Akira levels of body horror. I get that's weird, but that's kind of what this book is like, and I found it fascinating. I also just, if that's, like, you don't know what those two things are, I also want to compare it to, like, it's a very weird episode of Star Trek, because there's not a ton of action, a lot of it is just talking, but the way that they're talking, it's like they're like, oh, I saw this horrible body horror thing, well, and then they're, like, debating whether things are right or wrong, or what they should do in this tricky situation. So this probably shouldn't have been my first foray into reading a Leckie novel, but I'm not mad that it was. I found the world to be quite interesting, and its approach to a non-gendered universe quite refreshing. That being said, the book is like 80% dialogue, so if you're not a fan of books with heavy discussion and less action, this probably isn't for you. For me, I thought it was intriguing and thoughtful, and I found Leckie's writing to be actually really good. It was really engaging. There wasn't any part where I actually felt bored. That's a high praise, I feel like. I was interested the entire time. I really wanted to know what was going to happen to these characters. But in first place, the one I voted for to get the Hugo Award for 2023 publishing year, but 2024 in terms of Hugo Awards. The Adventures of Amina Al-Sirafi by Shanon Chakraborty. Yeah! So, this is the first installment in a pirate-themed trilogy that spins the tale of, surprise, Amina Al-Sirafi. After many years of being one of the most notorious pirates in the Indian Ocean, Amina has retired, trying to find a peaceful life raising her daughter. This comes to an abrupt end when she is approached by an obscenely wealthy mother of a former crewman of Amina's, who gives her an offer no pirate, active or retired, could refuse. While Amina struggles with her excitement, she feels to be going on... She's like excited to go on another adventure, but she feels guilty for leaving her daughter behind. But then she discovers that the job she's taking on is a lot more than she had initially planned for. So yeah, this book ended up being a really fun pirate fantasy adventure, and I must tell you that I first found the first like 150 to 200 pages a little boring, because it just has this like, I gotta go get my band back together feel that, like, I think most people aren't going to be that bored with. I was just like, I want to get to the action now! I just really wanted to get to the meat of the story. But basically, immediately after the band is back together, things really take off, and the story really delves into an exciting adventure that balances humor with heavy topics. The way that magic exists in this world is really interesting, and it was kind of just a breath of fresh air to read, honestly. Especially... it's uncommon, I feel like, to have such a book that was so popular be told by a woman in her early 40s, and she's already lived a very exciting and dangerous life, but she's still the main character. She's not like the mentor or anything. She's still the main character. It's still her story. Yeah, and I think, I don't know. Overall, this story was just really fun read. If you like pirate stories, I have no doubt you'll like this story too. If you like, I don't know what else to put. It's just written in a way that's quite interesting, so I think I can easily recommend this book to anyone. But that's just my opinion. What do I think won? Oh wait, no, I have something else to talk about first. All right, hold on, let me get to it. So I thought it was weird this time that the common themes were so strong in these six books that were nominated. Last year when I read the Hugo Award nominations, there were some books that had common denominator themes, but none of them really lined up that well. This one, it's weird. They kind of all have very similar theming. Family relations and what does it mean to be human / have humanity. And the second one, what does it mean to be human, have humanity, is a really, really common theme in sci-fi books and fantasy books for that matter. So that's not too surprising to have it be in here. But the family relations were so important in all of these books. And I just thought that was quite interesting and wanted to note it. Also, demons. Demons meant half of the books nominated. Demons were a strong theming as well. I thought that was kind of funny. I just wanted to point it out because I thought, I don't think this happens very often. It just happened this year. And I wonder if, like, these authors publishing these books, they were thinking about, I don't know, like, only one of these books mentions the pandemic, but you can kind of feel the influence of, like, I'm writing from my house and, like, what's surrounding me maybe was family. And so I'm writing from that perspective. I don't know. Not for all of them. I think that maybe some Desperate Glory and The Saint of Bright Doors, they've been written for like many years and were finally published, but they just happen to also be about like, who's your family, toxic relationships, what does it mean to be human, should we treat people that aren't exactly like us with respect or not. I mean, the answer is usually yes, we should. But and demons. I don't know. Demons are just a common denominator. It's just funny to me. So, who do I think will win? I said this earlier, but I go through the stats of all of the sci-fi fantasy nominations, like the award for nominations. I go through them and I tally them all up to see like what books are winning the most awards, what books are the most nominated. I've done that for 3 years now. I don't have any plans to not do that, so I'll probably keep doing it. So based on stats, I think The Saint of Bright Doors will win. I really do think that, because it's been nominated 7 times and won 4 already. But this is the Hugo Awards, so it's actually based on what these nerds that buy tickets or attendance to the Worldcon to vote in the Hugo Award, award ceremony, who they think is the best. So I kind of think The Saint of Bright Doors will not win, and I think that it will be based on my own, like, well, this is who people like. I think Witch King will win, which sucks because I didn't read all of it. But I kind of think Martha Wells is such a beloved author. If not Martha Wells, I could see Anne Leckie's Translation State winning, because she's also a very well-beloved author. I'd love it if Amina won. I would love it if The Adventures of Amina Al-Sirafi by Shanon Chakraborty won. I just don't think it will. Yeah. I really think it's going to be Witch King by Martha Wells because she's a very beloved author. I think she's also like a guest of honor this year at the Hugo Awards, so it just wouldn't surprise me if she won as well. So we'll see. It actually starts in 5 minutes or 6 minutes, whatever. We're good. So that's that. What do you think? Who do you think will win? I love this stupid PowerPoint, all those stupid little like starry sci-fi technicolor things. Arts. Hello, this is Future Trips reporting in. So before we get to my live reaction of who won the best novel from the Hugo Awards 2024. So I guessed for the Lodestar Award, Best Young Adult Book, I guessed and wanted it to be To Shape a Dragon's Breath by Moniquill Blackgoose, and I was right! Yay! And then after that it kind of goes, well, you probably already looked it up, so you know how it goes from there. Let's see. So, no surprise at all, best game or interactive work was Baldur's Gate 3, so I was right there, at least. Yay, even the one I voted for was correct. Hooray! So 2 for 2 so far. For Best Dramatic Presentation, long form, Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves won. I was really surprised about that. I just did not, I don't know why, I didn't think that would happen, but here, I guess it actually makes sense because it's kind of like it's what people from Worldcon, those attending Worldcon have watched, and out of all of those, I think the members of Worldcon would watch Dungeons & Dragons. Honor Among Thieves probably it's probably the most likely that they would watch it. So I get it. For best novella, Rose House by Arkady Martine did not win. Thorn Hedge by T. Kingfisher did win, however. I haven't read that book. I probably will read it at some point. T. Kingfisher's acceptance speech was very strange. It involved talking about sea cucumbers and how they have like butthole teeth. It was really weird. You can actually hear me like sort of reacting to that at the beginning of me reacting to the best novel. So enjoy. All right, we're at best novel now. After we learned about everyone learned about sea cucumbers and butthole teeth.
One eternity later.
No! No! My prediction was wrong and my favorite was wrong! No! No, I was wrong! I feel scorned. Some Desperate Glory, really? Okay. Sure. Fine. So, yeah, as you can see, I was not super happy. I mean, the thing is, now that I've had, so this is future me, it's been like a week or so, and I have had time to think about it, and it's like, I get it. I get why Some Desperate Glory won. It just wasn't the book for me personally, and to be real, I didn't think The Adventures of Amina Al-Sirafi was like the best book ever either. Like in terms of like deserving like an award of great, I don't know, a great accolade, but at the same time I liked it the most, so I wanted it to win. And that's kind of what Worldcon Hugo Awards are about. It's like the one that you think is the best, not necessarily like objectively, but it does seem to be much more subjective. I think a lot of voters do vote subjectively, which is fine, obviously, because it's public. It's not public, but you know what I mean. It's people voting, not just like a panel of, I don't know, elderly sages. I don't know. So anyway, that was that. I had a lot of fun doing this. I'm definitely going to do it next year. I may be embarking on a Hugo Awards project. We'll see if it actually pans out. I may go in a different direction for my next project. So yeah, thank you very, very much for watching. If you are not subscribed, go ahead and hit that buttons to be notified the next time I upload a video. Yeah, why not? And if you don't want to, that's fine too. Thanks for watching. Bye!